I've been delaying this video for a while, but yeah, I was lazy about it, but yeah, you guys wanted a deeper dive a while ago into Overamalgamate tale, and so lost all my notes on that, what I was gonna say during this, so I'll just say what comes to mind, well, without spoiling major events. So first off, we'll just go over each of the areas in order. Ruins is now going to known as Old Home. It looks similar in the sense everything is made out of the same bricks that the ruins is made out of, but every house is identical. They're identically spaced. They all have the same amount of room. It's very uniform to prevent people from being able to hide among it easily, since everything's uniform besides one spot or a couple. Toriel's house is slightly different, but that's just so Asgore can keep an eye on the house easier and spot it easier, or anyone else in the entire underground that goes there. And each school has a slight change in it. But other than that, schools are identical. Just a slight change. It depends on what area, but some of them will have maybe the roof is pointed a different way because that rain falls differently, or maybe who knows. But each one is slightly different, but they're all spaced 2 blocks away from each other. It is a very densely populated place during a north. But the reason why you don't see that is because there is a strict curfew and strict paths that, depending on the day, do vary, but they don't have a huge amount of difference. And this is forced to go on that path. But Ruin Old Home is made for the children, which is why there are so many schools, and the non-fighters of the underground. So it is technically the weakest of the areas, but it has the most people. The second area is Snowden, which is known as Raindawn in here. I haven't thought of a huge amount of details for it, because all I know is that it has an unnaturally large amount of rain due to weather being kind of wonky in each area. So Ruins is often very cloudy, which is why, yeah. And Raindawn gets it rains almost every day. Is a very moist and miserable place. For humans, at least. For monsters, it's not that bad. Waterfall, all I've decided about it so far is that it is going to be called Starry Sky. Hotland and all the rest of them, nothing has been decided about them. Next up would be the characters. Most of the characters are the same, with a couple exceptions. Sans and Flowey and Alfie's are the major ones. They have very different circumstances that lead to them being very different. Not so Sans. Let's start with Sans. Sans has technically two different ways he acts. One for when he's on duty, and the other for when he's off duty. When he's on duty, he's a very serious and strategic fighter. He prioritizes winning over anything else in a fight. So he does not care whether or not how he fights is fair or not. He will do what he needs to ensure a victory. Flowey did not have to experience the what he did normally, so he is, at least for a long time, was not aware of reset. So he still doesn't really feel emotion, but he's not a psychopath. He understands he's not going to do things just for the sake of doing them. He understands, or well, as far as he knows, everything he does comes with a consequence. And so he will not just do things willy-nilly without first understanding what the consequences of it is. And now Toriel, she has experienced a different type of life because she has watched a lot of humans die, and she's much more insistent on keeping humans in it safe, to the point where, if you haven't read what I have written so far, there is a human that is amalgamating inside of a secret area in her house. It's a very painful process, and Torio does not understand it and just assumes that by not letting the humans go out of the house, they are safe. It's much more painful. And while most monsters outside will just kill, they don't really care about how the humans' death feels. There are a couple like Sans, who will try to make the death as quick as possible. So less time dying, less pain. That's how a lot of this world works. Monsters don't die when they die, at least not in the traditional sense. They are technically still alive. They can feel, they can see, they can hear, but they are stuck as a pile of goop that is constantly feeling the pain of however they died. Of course, there are some monsters that feel a lot of regret because they were the ones tasked with originally sweeping up this stuff before monsters understood that these monsters that died were still alive. But now, in current day, all monsters are kept in jar and are daily given a medicine to reduce the pain. There were attempts to find a way to prevent monsters from dying at all, which were very unsuccessful and led to what the amalgamates in this AU are. That is all I will say about the amalgamates. Not much else has been decided anyways. Next up, Asgore. Asgore is not in the right mental capacity. he's not fully as insane as he was at the start of the war, but he's not fit to be ruler, and he doesn't realize that due to his state. He assumes that he's doing what is best when it's really not, and no one is able to challenge him because of his strength. Asgore is not a good person in this AU. His insanity does not it give him a free pass on what he did. What he did is wrong, and if he were to fully become uninsane, he would realize that. Now that all of that is settled, let's get on to the little bits of story that I can give easily without spoiling anything. Monsters and humans lived in peace on the surface, and then but the change comes here, where Kara went down into Mount Abbott, just exploring. No idea why. They were a kid, so, and found the buttercup flower. Kara brought the buttercup flower to the surface and into their home with Asgore, Toriel, and Asriel. Asriel and Kara were admiring the flower when it released a toxin or a poison of some kind. No one in the underground knows exactly what it is, besides that it seems to be the flower's defense system when it feels threatened. No one knows exactly how a flower feels threatened or how that even works, but it did, and that led to and that led to the toxin in the initial first dose, which both Kara and Asriel got hit by, that led to them dying, and Asgore, who is a much stronger monster and wasn't immediately in the room to go in it, along with a mix of seeing his children dead now, caused him to go insane, and in his insanity, he blamed it on humans and started the war with them. After a long war, humans and monsters doing research throughout that, and they found that the only safe place from the toxin was in the underground in Mount Abbott, where they are from. They suspect it's because of it being the flowers don't feel threatened there in Mount Abbott in the underground. So humans rush down there and sealed monsters on the surface, which with a much stronger barrier. This one requiring 500 human souls, which is the equivalent of becoming a god, but it is still slightly stronger than however strong they were in the original Undertale. So monsters were stuck on the surface, and after a bit, the amalgamation process began for them. They adapted quite quickly, but it were never fully able to get their amalgamating under control, which led to them being in a constant state of amalgamifying and yet unamalgamifying. And in monsters that are older that aren't boss monsters, as a monster gets older, the amalgamate process it changes and they look more amalgamated. But monsters can't die from old age. They can die from diseases, but do not die from old age. This in this by proxy allowed them to advance very quickly and grow really quickly to the point where they grew stronger than humans themselves. In fact, the only reason why Asgore isn't able to destroy the barrier is because it requires a vast amount of magic that monsters just don't have access to in their amalgamate forms. So they began trying to, and found that it was the exact number needed was 500. That is the absolute minimum amount of souls needed to break the barrier. So so over a long time, they began collecting souls. Currently, Asgore is missing one human soul, but he would have had the entire thing if it weren't for Flowey. Flowey knows Asgore isn't in the right state and refuses to let him get all of them. But he can't directly oppose Asgore, as that would be a death sentence for him. So instead, he sabotages them and kills several humans and hides the souls to prevent Asgore from getting them. No one is fully aware of it. Sans suspects that Flowey is has something behind this, is doing something like this, but never is able to get concrete proof of it. That is all that I shall share. So, see ya.